By the time Lin Fan left the side hall, the sun had cleared the lower ridge. The outer mountain was awake. Disciples carried water, argued over rations, hurried toward chores, and slowed when they saw him. The slowing had become more controlled than yesterday. Less obvious. Fear was learning manners. That made it more durable. A disciple who openly flinched could be mocked into courage. A disciple who merely chose another path could pretend he had always meant to go that way. Lin Fan walked through the shifting routes without acknowledging them. His body was close to its limit. The first burial had stabilized the root mark, but it had not made him healthy. Elder Gu's probe had aggravated the right meridian. The withering residue under his skin pulsed whenever sunlight warmed the mud on his robe. The hunger beneath the burial ring had quieted after being denied, but quiet did not mean gone. It waited. Small. Patient. Annoying. He reached East Lower Quarter and entered his room through the door this time. Let watchers see ordinary movement after extraordinary absence. Inside, he closed the door and sat on the bed before his knees could weaken. The extra heat-clearing pill and clean rice packet lay in his sleeve. Elder Gu's restriction order rested in the other sleeve, folded with official marks. Confinement to East Lower Quarter until tomorrow morning. A leash. Also a shield. For one day, anyone interfering with him risked violating Elder Gu's order. For one day, he could use confinement as an excuse to avoid unnecessary contact while stabilizing the first burial. For one day, the sect believed it had reduced his movement. That was enough. He took out the heat-clearing pill and split it with the basin shard. Half now. Half at sunset. He dissolved the first half in water, mixed in a grain of clean rice, and drank slowly. Cold spread through the stomach and down to the root junction. The burial ring tightened, then settled. The hunger disliked the cooling medicine. Good. Let it learn denial came from more than will. He closed his eyes. Inner sight formed slowly. The spirit root no longer looked exactly as it had yesterday. To an elder's rough inspection, it would still appear contaminated, unstable, and weakly wood-aligned. But beneath the surface, the poison ring had become a deliberate layer. The dark burial mark sat under it like a seed pressed into grave soil. A hair-thin secondary vein pierced through that mark, green behind, black at the tip. Foundation transformation had begun. Not breakthrough. Not realm advancement. Not something that would let him defeat Hanwei by force. But foundation mattered before every visible victory. Most cultivators chased visible victories because others could praise them. Lin Fan had learned too late in his first life that a crooked foundation demanded payment at every realm. He had paid with blood, time, and methods that should have killed him. This time, he would make the foundation pay him back. He guided a shallow breath around the burial ring. The ring rotated once. Pain. Then steadiness. Again. Pain. Steadiness. Again. The green-black thread flexed, wanting to open. He kept it closed. The 9 burials' withering root art rested in his mind like a dark tool wrapped in cloth. Only the first burial sequence was clear. The rest remained partial, blocked by his own refusal to accept too much and by the chamber's unwillingness to offer freely after he divided the root shaving. That was fine. He did not need the second burial yet. Attempting it would be stupidity. First task, stabilize. Second, conceal. Third, identify materials for chosen root direction before completing deeper burials. Possible materials. Medicinal pool beneath third outer mountain. Abandoned spirit mine sediment. Clean spirit grain, if acquired consistently. Pillar residue, if another test occurred. Hostile chi from controlled sparring, perhaps Hanwei's metal tendency. Lin Fan paused at that. Hanwei's metal root chi could be useful. Not as a main material. Too sharp. Too external. But a trace could temper the burial ring's outer edge, making it less vulnerable to probing. If Hanwei still sought one exchange, the contact might be used to collect a sliver without revealing the right palm conduit fully. Dangerous. Potentially worth arranging later. Not today. Today, he was confined. And watched. Outside his door, 2 sets of footsteps passed in the next hour. One belonged to Wang Lei, nervous and too slow. The other belonged to someone heavier, pausing without stopping. Not Zhang Hu. Perhaps Ma Yong. Perhaps one of Han Wei's people. The confinement order had not prevented curiosity. It had refined it. Lin Fan did not move. The best response to observation was sometimes boredom. Let them watch a closed door. Inside, he cultivated without looking like cultivation. No chi draw. No visible posture change. Only breath around the root, burial ring rotation, pain containment, and slow integration of the first burial mark. If someone peered through the door crack, they would see a sick disciple sitting quietly. If Elder Gu probed from afar, he would sense unstable root pain settling under medicine. If the observer beyond the world watched, it would see a man using confinement as cover for foundation transformation. Let it watch. Near noon, a faint sensation touched the back of Lin Fan's neck. Not physical. Root shadow. He opened his eyes. The mark the chamber had placed below his neck, the one that had vanished before he could cut it off, pulsed once. Cold spread from that point to the first burial ring. The green-black thread stirred. Lin Fan's gaze sharpened. The chamber was far beneath the west training yard. The path was sealed. The root-shaving half remained in the dead stump. No direct connection should reach him here unless the mark was more than residue. The pulse came again. This time, it carried meaning without words. Return. Lin Fan sat very still. The chamber had used that word before. First return recognized. Now, in his own room, behind Elder Gu's confinement order, with the sun high enough to fill the cracks in the window paper, the inheritance called again. Return. Not command. Recognition. Invitation. Warning. Perhaps all three. The observer's colorless ring stirred at the edge of his consciousness. For one breath, the root shadow mark and observer trace seemed to become aware of one another again. The burial ring tightened in response, as if bracing between two external claims. Lin Fan pressed his will down. No. Both traces quieted. But not fully. The room felt colder afterward. He stood and crossed to the table. With the basin shard, he scratched 3 small lines into the underside of the wood, one vertical, one broken crescent, one dot beneath. Root. Withering. Burial. Then he cut a 4th line through them. His own mark. He would return to the chamber. But not when called. Not through the same route. Not before he understood whether the inheritance recognized him because of rebirth, because of the observer's trace, because some future version of his existence had already touched it, or because the 9 burials art itself had tasted a man who had died once and refused to stay buried. Outside, a bell rang for midday duties. At the same time, from the corridor, a steward's voice called, "Lin Fan. Elder Gu asks if your symptoms have changed." So the monitoring had tightened already. Lin Fan looked at the scratch beneath the table, then covered it with his palm. "No change," he answered. Another partial truth. His symptoms had not changed in a way Elder Gu could own. The steward's footsteps moved away. Lin Fan returned to the bed. The first opportunity was secured. The first burial had begun transforming his foundation. Elder Gu suspected enough to watch. Han Wei knew enough to remain interested. The hidden inheritance beneath the training yard had begun calling him as if it remembered something that had not yet happened in this life. Lin Fan closed his eyes and let the burial ring rotate once more. Cold pain. Steadiness. In the dark behind his eyelids, a dead tree stump opened again, and for a moment he saw not the chamber as it was, but another version, older, broken, its roots burned, its remaining half-shaving gone, and a shadow standing before it in robes he had not yet earned in this life. Then the vision vanished. The inheritance had not merely reacted. It remembered. And somewhere beneath Azure Cloud Sect, something that should have been dead began waiting for Lin Fan's second return. At the West Training Yard, the third post stood silent under the noon light. Han Wei returned there after washing mud from his sleeves. Lu Chen came with him, though neither spoke at first. The drainage groove had been reset badly by someone's hurried hand. The stone plug looked ordinary if one had never seen it move. Han Wei had seen enough. He held his recovered token between two fingers. Ash clung to its edge. He marked it, Lu Chen said. I know. He wanted you to know he marked it. I know that too. Han Wei looked at the third post, then at the wall, then at the drainage groove. His expression was not angry. That was more dangerous than anger. Anger would have made him rush. Interest made him return. What did he find? Lu Chen asked. Han Wei closed his hand around the token. Something worth not meeting me. Lu Chen's eyes narrowed. Will you report it? To whom? Elder Gu. Han Wei smiled slightly. Elder Gu already knows enough to watch. If I report without knowing, I become a messenger. I dislike that role. Then we see what changes. Lu Chen looked toward East Lower Quarter. He is confined. Walls show where a man wants to leave. Han Wei turned away from the post. Watch the people who visit him. Lu Chen frowned. Lin Ro? Everyone. The order was quiet, but it moved another thread. By afternoon, eyes would settle not only on Lin Fan, but on anyone kind, curious, greedy, or foolish enough to approach his door. The opportunity beneath the mountain had begun altering the surface before anyone knew its name. In his room, Lin Fan felt the chamber mark pulse once more. Return. This time, beneath the word, there was a faint image, not the chamber as he had left it, but a dead root splitting open under a sky without stars. The observer's ring remained silent. Too silent. Silence had grades. There was the silence of ignorance, the silence of sleep, the silence of restraint, and the silence of something choosing not to reveal how much it understood. Lin Fan had survived too many inheritances and too many smiling seniors to mistake them for the same thing. The observer's ring had not stopped watching. It had stopped reacting. That was worse. When an unknown force reacted, one could measure it. When it remained still after a forbidden inheritance recognized him, it either did not care or had already adjusted its estimate. Lin Fan did not believe in the first possibility. Anything attached to his soul across death cared about changes that touched memory, root, and fate. Which left the second. It was learning him. The thought did not frighten him in any simple way. Fear belonged to people who still imagined they could step away from danger and return to ordinary cultivation. Lin Fan had lost that luxury the moment he opened his eyes in the outer sect dormitory with a dead life's memories intact. Still, there were differences between danger and invitation. The chamber had called him return. The observer had stayed silent. One named him. One measured him. Neither was allowed to own him. Lin Fan drew a breath through the bitterness in his throat and let his awareness sink toward the first burial ring. The ring had changed since he left the chamber. Its edge was clearer, not stronger exactly, but more definite. Before, his damaged root had been a wound holding poison, pressure, and old weakness in one muddled pain. Now the first burial separated those things by a thread-thin boundary. Poison inside. Judgment outside. Hunger between. Dangerous. Useful. Incomplete. He could feel how easy it would be to seek the second burial too soon. The first had created room. The body, foolish with relief, wanted to fill that room immediately. That was how forbidden arts killed people with hope instead of knives. Lin Fan refused the impulse and studied the silence instead. The chamber waited below. The observer waited within. Han Wei waited outside. Elder Gu waited behind procedure. For waiting things, all different, all patient in their own way. He would answer none of them from impulse. Lin Fan opened his eyes. The first opportunity had given him a technique, a foundation shift, a hidden chamber, and 3 new watchers. It had also awakened a memory that was not entirely his. He looked at the underside of the table where he had scratched his own mark across the chamber's symbol. Then he added one more line beneath it. A small horizontal cut. Not root. Not withering. Not burial. Boundary. Whatever recognized him below the sect would learn that return did not mean obedience. Lin Fan sat back down, closed his eyes, and let the burial ring rotate under the new mark of his will. The ring obeyed more smoothly this time. Once. Twice. On the third rotation, the hunger brushed against the boundary mark and stopped without needing to be crushed. Lin Fan opened his eyes halfway. That was progress. Small, invisible, and more valuable than a public victory. The root had obeyed a preset limit. Good. He continued until the 4th rotation, then stopped. Do not overtrain a new structure. Do not reward hunger for obedience by giving it more movement immediately. The body wanted to continue because the pain had become bearable, and bearable pain often tricked desperate cultivators into calling it progress. Lin Fan refused. 4 rotations were enough. The 5th might deepen the ring. It might also teach the ring to ask for a 5th every time. He lay back against the wall and let his breathing settle. Outside, footsteps gathered and dispersed around his door. Watchers. Messengers. Curious disciples. None entered. Inside, beneath the table, the scratched boundary mark remained hidden. Beneath the sect, the dead stump waited. At the edge of his soul, the observer watched. And between all 3, Lin Fan held the only thing that mattered for now. The right to decide which call he answered first. For this life, that right was the beginning of cultivation. Power would come later, if he survived the debts attached to it. Until then, he would cultivate like a thief in a burning house, taking only what he could carry, leaving before the roof taught ambition its price, one breath at a time.